Hey guys, we're back with part 2 of the intermediate knife build. Just to do a little recap, we've drawn our knife, we've got our stock, we laid it on here, we lined up our line right here with our line right here, and we've drawn this out. Tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grind this off here and here. I'm going to lay my bevel jig on there, grind these bevels off, and then I'll grind the tang. I don't want to grind this tang first because I won't have anything to hold on to get some leverage to grind these bevels. So I will knock the tips off here just to make it a little more ergonomic in my hand so it doesn't dig into my hand while I'm grinding my bevels off. And so I'm going to spend quite a bit of time over at the grinder, and then I've decided to do one cool special thing to this blade before we heat treat it. Stay tuned, it's going to be really cool. That is the profile right there. Pretty easy. Gonna go ahead and lay some dicum right down here so we can get our lines drawn for our edge. We're gonna go ahead and put some on the back too, just as a reference. Got my height gauge here, and we've got our blade. I'm gonna go ahead and draw these lines in with the height gauge. That. Flip it over, do the same thing on this side. Perfect. Like I said, I am going to go ahead and give myself some reference marks on the back. Alright, so here's our design. Here's our knife blade. We're going to lay it on there. Okay, everything's still matching up, which is good. And what we're going for here is to put this in right here. Now, we've decided to put that there. So let me just put a mark right here. That's where we want our plunge line. Right there. Plunge line there. And then we want it to kind of follow a forward cant right there. That'll just give me an idea of where to put this guy when I come up here. So now I can clamp that guy there, and let's see, there and there. That's my reference marks. And this will be my bevel jig. This is my plunge line guide. When I'm grinding, I can bump it right up against the platen, and it's going to give me a grind line up this side and up this side that are both even and equal, so that you have perfect symmetry between this grind and this grind here in the middle. They'll meet, and they should be at the same place on both sides. So this is a really handy jig to have right there. Okay guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump right up here, and I'm going to grind to these lines. Make sure these are reference lines. The whole point of these lines is to give you a reference point. So if you grind into the line, you no longer have it there as a reference point. So you want to make sure that you don't grind past the line. You want to grind up to it. So that means when I come up to my grinder, I'm going to be laying in just a little bit at an angle like this. This is why I ground these tips off, because if those tips were still there and I was trying to get any leverage, that tip would be digging into my hand right there. That's also a reason I didn't grind the tang yet, because I wouldn't have enough to hold on to back here. So I leave that whole piece of metal there. That's going to help me with my grinds, and I can pull these through. I'm not going to grind these all the way to the top pre-heat treat. I'm going to grind them up to about here, leave some extra meat so that if there's any minor warps or anything that might happen during heat treatment, I've got a little extra material I can grind off on one side or the other to straighten things back out. So let's jump right in here. This is a 36 grit belt. It's really aggressive, and I'm just going to go for it on this. personal protection. Boom. All right, let's get to grinding. Definitely glove up so you're not getting the heat. Here we go. Got my bucket of water right here. Alright, so this is high, so I'm going to spend a little more time here to bring this line up so that it's equal. All right, So there's where we're at right now. Got our knife blade right there, just like that, just like we thought. What I'm gonna do is now I'm gonna go ahead and cut this guy out right here. We're just gonna kind of just cut right along the dotted line. You know, really, I didn't need to curve that. We can just keep that straight. Straight as an arrow, really. As long as the tang fits within the handle, you're good to go. There we go. Ta-da! Just draw around it. Put this on here and figure out where I really want that pin. Here's our knife blade, our template, and the rest of our handle. I am going to want to drill the pin before I heat treat. Now when I look at this handle, when I drew it out, if I'm going to bring the tip down in the handle, in order for that to look right with the pin needs to be more here. And I think that that looks good. Get that out of the way. And boom. Let's go drill that. That's my center punch right there. The rest of it fell apart. That's good enough. When I come to drill this pin, I want you to notice that the knife stops on the drill stanchion. So if for any reason it gets away from me, boom, it'll stop right there on the drill. So on this, I don't feel the need to absolutely clamp it down. We're gonna go ahead and drill this out. I also drill this hole larger than the pin that I plan on using to give me just a little bit of wiggle room. It will be completely filled in with epoxy when we're done, so the extra room in the hole can do nothing but help you. This is pretty simple. I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it and go to town. I have just enough room right here for my touch mark. I like to stamp that cold. So I'm going to go ahead and orient this right over where I'm going to want it. And boom! Touch mark! Maybe I can give you a close-up of that too. Boom. There's my touch mark. Nice. Told you I was going to do something cool before heat treatment, and that's where we're at. I have my bag of Saintonite, which is a refractory cement, a high temperature refractory cement. We're going to take that, I'm gonna put a little bit in here, mix some water up, and we're gonna clay this blade to get a hamon on it. Should be pretty cool. This is a new batch. Comes wrapped. Alright, so this stuff pulls moisture out of the air and it has a shelf life. So what I like to do is when I buy stuff from the big box stores that come with desiccant packets, I put those in with this to keep the moisture out of it. And it lasts a lot longer. Alright, so let's just put a nice amount of clay. It doesn't take a lot, but you want to mix it really thick. Alright, let's start with that right there. Put a little bit of water in it. Evident I put too much water right off the bat. So get some more clay. Alright, let's see what that looks like. I'll bring the camera in close so you can see the consistency here, because this is pretty important. Oh yeah, that's a good consistency right there. Don't tell my wife I'm using our coffee cups to do this. So, here's what we're looking at here. It's kind of like a really thick oatmeal. See how it doesn't, it sticks. That's what you're looking for. Okay, I'm actually gonna get this camera first person now. Right here so you can see what I'm doing. To see what I'm doing. There we go. Close your bag so it's not sucking any extra moisture in. Alright, there we go. And let's clay a blade. So here is the blade. So you're going to go real thick down the spine. Absolutely. That's where you want your thickest clay, is right down the spine. Yeah. So go real thick right down the spine. That's where you want your thickest clay, is right down the spine of the knife. So just real thick. Build it up. We're going to go ahead and clay down here too. And then here's where you get creative. Now, if I left it just like that and heat treated it, you would get a line right here, and this would be darker. This would be darker, and this would be lighter. Now, I would like to see if I can't get some cool flames or maybe dips. Let me get something a little finer, maybe like this. Actually, we'll start with pulling these tips down with this, like this. We'll pull these tips down like that. And then what I'm going to do, yeah, that's going to be good right there. I'm going to take something a little finer and try to drag that clay down on a little neater pattern. Give it some activity here. Anywhere where there's clay, you have a chance of seeing some cool different lines and activity on the blade after heat treatment. And that's really what we're going for here. Alright, so that looks really cool. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to do something similar. Use this to drag down some larger. And this is totally artistic right here. You could do anything you want to do. You know, I think the Japanese looked at this as like their fingerprint that they would put on their swords. This is creating a clay hamon line. The thicker the clay, the more it's going to insulate the blade in that area, and the harder or more visually striking line you're going to get. I'm just adding a little extra clay down here around these tips to make sure it's nice and thick, because I want those to be nice and dark. And another thing you can do is in certain areas just add a dot, maybe. If you think that might look cool somewhere. Cool. Alright, so we'll say this one's a little close to the edge for me, so I'm gonna scoot it up. And then we're just gonna hang this and let it dry. We're gonna let this dry overnight, and then tomorrow we'll heat treat this. So this is what it looks like. Right there, got some cool action going on. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna bring it up here just a little bit, just to keep the tang soft during the heat treat. The tang doesn't really need to be hard. In fact, if you don't harden the tang, it's less likely to break, less likely to snap, especially in this area right here where it goes through the guard. Perfect. Let's hang it and dry it. Alright, I went ahead and dried this overnight. This clay right here on the knife, I want to bring it in close so you can see the different variations of clay that I did down the blade before I heat treat it. Now when I hand sand this, you'll see some of these artifacts of the clay left in the blade. And what's actually happening is where the clay is, it's going to stay soft, and where the clay isn't, this metal is going to get fully hardened. And you're going to see a gradient tinting pattern move from the hardened steel to the softer steel. And that's where you're going to start seeing the activity in the blade when I finish this out. I'm going to go ahead and run you through the entire heat treatment process from start to finish. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat my forge. I'll heat my chain. This is my oil heating chain. I'll go ahead and heat this in the forge, and then I'll heat my oil tank with that chain to get my oil up to the correct temperature, about 125, 130 degrees. And then I'll go ahead and lower the temperature of the forge down so that I can heat my knife blade cup slowly so that I don't shoot past my temperature that I'm looking for this 1084 steel. I don't want to get it too hot because then it won't heat treat properly. So I'll lower the temperature of the forge down to about as low as the forge will run, and then I'll go ahead and get this blade hot, quench it. I've got my quench tank facing north and south. I don't know if that's an old wise tale or not, but I've heard that if your quench tank is north and south, and when you quench your knife, it might mitigate some warps in your blade. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'll tell you what, why not do it? It's pretty easy. So I've got this facing north and south. Let's go ahead and fire up the forge, and we'll get going. So what I do here is turn on my gas. Pretty easy. Got a piece of steel in there that I was forging last night. Alright, let's get this going here. Just light a piece of paper, toss that in the forge, and get the gas turned on. Here we go. Get it nice and hot. Throw my chain in there. I'll show you guys the rest. So the chain's hot. We're going to go ahead and heat this oil up. I've noticed that my chain, it likes to splash a little oil. To go ahead and mix the oil, I just take the chain and move it up and down. It agitates the oil quite a bit, actually. So no need to stir it with anything else. I mean, you've got a chain. You might as well just stir it up with your chain. And just let it drip for a second. I've got a drip tray down here that catches the rest. Okay guys, now I'm going to go ahead and turn down the forge. Alright, so the forge is now down to a low temperature. I'm going to grab my knife blade here. Grab it by a non-crucial part. See how it's coming out there? We're almost ready. Here we go. Yep. Gotta get there quick when you decide to do it. Okay, here we go. check it with a file, make sure that we got it hot enough. Should be good to go.